Morning, Joe.
Thanks for coming on the podcast or green lighting the podcast as the owner of the Olde Engine Works. I was hoping today we might talk about, in some regard, how you came to be the owner of the Olde Engine Works, and then we'll talk about the business model here. But I know briefly that you owned a building on Main Street in Stroudsburg. And then came to own this place. Can you talk about that a little bit and what this place entails?
Well, on Main Street and 6th Street, we had an antique store, and Rex was running that, my partner. And when this became available, and I had sold the apartment house, I got into this one, and this is just a very large antique store. And other, when I bought the building, there was about 100 dealers here selling everything from collectible items to antiques.
I was going to segue with that. There's this idea that I came to know you as a building owner, an apartment building owner. It seemed like an odd choice to buy large complex of buildings that are known as an antique dealership, but in fact you have a history with antiques as well, so this is not that odd.
No, it was a natural one. I needed a building to put the antiques that we had from the store in, and this was a great situation. And it wasn't being utilized. The market had dropped down substantially in antiques from the 90s when this was doing very well.
Right.
And it had slowed down. I think the previous owner was felt he had done everything that he could, and he wanted to get out.
Right.
And it needed new blood. It needed a new view, a new perspective.
And so when you bought the place, it was still running as an antique dealership.
Right.
So you just sort of hit the ground running. You came in, and all of a sudden now you're fully in the antique business.
Just took over. The staff was here, and it was a good staff.
Right.
The people knew what they were doing. I just didn't make any moves until I had watched and seen what was going on.
What's the before we get to the staff and the actual the running of this place? Can you tell us? I mean, this is not just one building. This is sort of like a little complex of buildings. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, originally the buildings were used for different purposes. This was the loading where they would bring in the stuff, the raw materials. It has a loading dock and where they could also ship from. So this was added probably later in the I don't know exactly when, but all of the buildings are connected. You have the main building, which is 250 feet long, and that's where the engineering was, where all the lathes and the other machinery was. And the buildings that connected to it, well, one of them was used for storage of the models that they use for casting to make the basic metal parts.
Right.
And there were buildings that we used for finishing, for painting, others for cleaning and storage, or different types of work that was done in there, sheet metal or like that. So all of these buildings became part of the whole complex for the engine works.
And so now you have the main building is, of course, mostly dealer booths. You have some space being utilized in other ways, sort of on the fringe of the complex.
Yeah, we've one of them was a building of about 4,000 square feet, and he was a dealer in here, and he took over the whole space.
Right.
He was doing enough business, and he's open on the weekends. Next to him is a guy who makes guitars, and that's Wes.
Right.
And then we have another building next to that, which we use for new products that come in, to fix them and to get them ready to go out on the floor.
Got it. I didn't know that.
And then
That's
we have a machine shop which is not connected to us, but we have space for a machine shop. And next door to them is a dry cleaner, and then the recording studio,
Right.
which was the main entrance.
Right.
Now, our main entrance is around the corner in the parking lot.
Let's talk about that. What's the physical address, as well as the location doesn't really lend itself to how one would perceive how you come into here and how this all works.
Well, originally, the front door was 62 North 3rd Street, and that was the office. There's a couple of offices there. But when I took over, using one of the offices, it was so far from where the entrance is now.
Right.
That, it's ridiculous. I couldn't see what was going on. People that wanted to talk to me had to walk 250 feet down the hallway to get to me. So I built another office next to the selling area.
And it also wouldn't make much sense to make that the front entrance for customers coming in, right?
It was too narrow,
Yeah.
and they would be going through offices, so it just didn't work.
Right.
And we rented that out to a musical studio,
Right.
a recording studio. In fact, they just took over my old office, and we got rid of it completely.
Right.
We rent that out. And the rest of it now is all together next to the parking lot. So when you go into the building from the parking lot, the office is there, the register is there. It's all.
So when we think about the Old Engine Works, the antique dealership, if somebody wants to come down here, what we've been promoting, coming down here and seeing all this amazing stuff, you do have to sort of come around the building. And there's sort of it sort of encompasses a parking lot in a central.
There's not much we can do. The parking lot was in the middle of the block.
Right.
And we don't have any frontage on 2nd Street, but actually the whole property runs between 2nd and 3rd Street.
Right.
They built the apartment house next door to us, which used to be at one time it was an ice factory.
Right.
And then I think it was a hospital. And then they had a fire. And when the place burned down, the Empire Board put up the apartments. So we have nice people next door, big parking lot, and easy access from 2nd Street or 3rd Street.
I think it's one of the things I tell everyone that, even because of the history of this place, a lot of people don't know that this building's here, or, when you come here, it's not just the fact that this is an antique dealership. To me, it's a nice marriage of the fact that you walk in here, and this is an amazing building to walk into, and you can feel that history. And now it's full of historical items.
Yes.
It's sort of it's been reborn from a manufacturing facility into a house of history in some regard.
Well, this whole end of town is seeing a rebirth. When the town built a new road
Right.
on 2nd Street, the houses were improved. Then a large commercial complex went in on the end of 1st Street.
Right.
Stroudsburg Door and Trim was taken over and made into apartments. So all in all, this end of town is a profitable,
Right.
exciting place now.
And I think growing, yeah.
It definitely is.
Right. In regards to the antique dealership business, which is the majority of this complex, what's the running business model? Can you explain? We're actually in a room that is largely your merchandise, right?
Right.
But primarily, which is nice, and this was sort of expanded out when you came in here, from what I understand.
Well, when I first came in, this had locked rooms
Right.
that were rented out for storage. So this wasn't being used as a display case. In fact, the door to it was closed off.
Right.
And dealers were storing their stuff here.
Right.
So I eliminated, I got rid of all of the storage units and opened up the ramp so that you could go from the main building to here.
Right.
And of course, it's not all antiques. I have 100 dealers that not all of them sell
Right.
antiques. They sell everything collectible and a whole range of goods. So
Yeah,
it was a working situation when I came in.
When we get away from, I wanted to point out that, you're also a dealer, you and your partner, but primarily this is a business revolving around individual vendors and booths. Can you explain that sort of business model here?
Well, we have over 100 dealers. They pay rent for their space, And in return, I'll sell their items at the register. We charge them a percentage for
Right.
selling the items. They are supposed to work 2 days a month in addition to their rent. And it seems to work out by having these extra people on the floor to help customers when they come in.
Right.
Because there are so many collectible items from records. Elvis Presley, he's got that thing where you walk past
Right.
and it greets you. There's a lot of very collectible and unusual items for everything from golfers to football players, collectors, any kind.
Right. And then I think what's interesting too is that, so you sort of took this place over, hit the ground running. I just saw the Pocono Record article about the blog.
Yeah.
So, there's been an expansion in your website presence, social media presence, telling individual stories about items and dealers that are here. I think that's a big part of it too. Since you've taken over, that seems to be a different sort of feel here.
Well, we're trying to get the place known. There's still many people don't even know we're here.
Right.
And have no idea. Oh, I didn't know you were here. And they've lived here 50 years. So they just don't come around. But this article helped a lot. I've been running ads. We have television ads. These weren't done before. It was just a matter of going in some of the magazines.
Right.
The previous owner didn't do television.
And
it made a big difference.
have you seen growth?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Every month we are up higher.
Nice.
As more and more people. And I love going to auctions and estate sales and finding items that are unusual.
I think there's all sorts of people that can find out about this place and find value here. I don't think it's just, how do you say this? I don't think it's just antiques. Like, I don't.
Oh, no.
It's not just a market for those who collect.
We got dolls.
Yeah.
We have, handmade items. There's one fellow that makes bars,
Yep.
for drinks and stuff out of barrels. And,
Even who the customer is. I could see this place being a place that should be on the radar of those who are making films, or this would be almost like a prop house. The
Yep.
things you can find in here for, whether it be your apartment, your house, or something creative that you're doing.
We've had companies from New York come in and buy
Right.
things for a stage, for a play, and they got half of the items that they needed.
Exactly.
We do have an enormous variety of stuff. You can come in here and just walk around. It'll take you a while to see everything.
Right.
But there's so much unusual items that you'll find something that will spark your interest.
Yeah, I think so too. That's part of the fun of it. This place is so large and there's so much in here. It's fun just to come in and
Something to do.
with the idea that you're going to be surprised.
It's something to do on a rainy afternoon or
Right.
any day. Yeah.
I love coming in here. A lot of the ways in which people can find out about this place would be, of course, website, social media presence. You guys are on Facebook. There's a blog. An article just came out in the Pocono Record about this place and some of the things you guys are doing. We have the podcast on YouTube.
And I run ads on Pocono Record, in the Pocono Record, plus television. We're on Channel 16
Okay.
and a few other radio stations.
But we were talking about this. Although all these things are available, don't use these things as an excuse not to come in here in person and see all this. And you have to come down here.
You have to touch it.
Yeah.
You have to feel it and see it.
You-
Don't break it.
You have to discover for yourself. You have to come in here and you got to dig a little bit.
Everything is here.
Okay.
And there's a lot of space, isn't it? Almost 20,000 square feet of space to look at. So
There's so much to look at.
you can spend a very happy day walking around.
All right, Norman, thanks again for doing this.
My
I really
pleasure.
appreciate it. It's, as always, really interesting to talk to you. So, again, thanks. Thanks for doing it.
There's always something new at the Olde Engine Works.